is the fact that we're going live with episode 91 of Wait, Did I Roll a Wild? Your Marvel Crisis Protocol vlog. I am Tim. You may recognize me from episode 91 of Wait, Did I Roll a Wild? Your Marvel Crisis Protocol vlog. The only time and only episode I've ever said that whole sentence correctly.
Wow.
Yeah, not trying to brag or nothing. Pretty big deal. But tonight starts our year in review for Marvel Crisis Protocol. We started it last year. This is the second annual year in review for MCP, where we are going to go over all of the changes that have happened through this past year, what it has meant to us, what it has potentially meant to you, and what it has changed as far as the narrative goes, and as far as our mouthfeel of MCP as a whole.
No.
We're going to go over a little bit about some of the upcoming events that are coming up that we talk about every week, but you know what I mean? There's always more information happening as far as those things are concerned. We're also going to touch on the game that Brian Watson and I played this past Monday on Oh Yeah, the Power Phase, our live battle report stream every Monday night right here on the Twitch, twitch.tv/professional casual network. And just in case you were unaware, Brian Watson is someone that we met at the Atlantic City Open, Frontline Gaming's New Jersey based convention. He was the TO there. Super great guy. Runs a really tight ship. Really like him. Yeah, really like him quite a lot. He's a local, relatively, for one of our favorite people, Mr. Dylan Dyer, as well as the TO for the Midgard Games LVO qualifier that we covered in August, and with the TO of Everwinter, which is the December downtown Boston convention, which is going to have one of the last few, if not the absolute last, LVO qualifier this year on the weekend of December 10th in downtown Boston. If you want more information on that, the place to check it out is wickeddicey.com. You can get tickets to the event, find out the maybe the hospital information, but also the hotel information. They are moving to a new, bigger, better, beautiful X-Men Blue venue, and we'll be there covering the action and one of those last few LVO qualifiers before we head to Vegas for LVO.
Vegas!
Now, this past week, I have been talking a lot to Mr. OmnusProtocol himself, Charles, who has an absolute ton of stuff planned, as well as Tyson, for LVO. There's going to be a lot of people helping him out, including Mr. Brian Watson, and one of our favorite people, one of the first people that we kind of ever really connected with in the MCP podcast space, Lexa White. Is going to be there as well. I'm actually very excited to meet her in person finally, after lots of guest starring on Elite Eight Showdown, or me on the Morlocks, or you on the Morlocks, and
Danny.
And Danny, yes.
I was gonna be on, and then Lexa had computer issues and lost the episode.
It was probably just the sound of your voice, but I'm just trying to put it on us, you know what I mean? We're self-deprecating here. Have you never seen Elite Eight Showdown? But
this isn't Elite Eight Showdown.
It could be, Dan, and it will be.
Introducing me finally.
Oh yeah, and in the seat next to me is. Did I introduce myself?
In a weird roundabout way, like double introduced yourself.
All right, sweet. So once again in this chair, my name's Tim Franz.
Because I thought you were doing a whole Troy McClure thing, because you were like. Oh. You may have seen me, so I was trying to come up with one that was like, and I'm Dan Cole. You might have recognized me from Glasses, a retrospective.
You may remember me, Tim Franz, from Adepticon 2022, as well as LVO 2023. Don't forget ACO 2022, and also all of the other stuff we've done this year. But yeah, so we're kicking off. Listen, next week is Thanksgiving. We're going to be off next week, just so you all know. Ravensguard also, what's up?
You're too busy watching football next week.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Big Chuck. As one of the only people on this network, Tim France, the only person to drive 14. Actually, Chuck, I appreciate you trying to discount me a little bit there. Hours straight, both ways, no help. Just one stop at Sheetz, only on the way back. I don't need that gratification on the way there to Adepticon. But this year at Adepticon, there's going to be a whole lot in store. Not only is there going to be Worlds for Star Wars Legion, there's also going to be some massive events for Armada and X-Wing. It's also going to be the first place ever you can get your hands on Star Wars Shadowpoint for demos.
Yeah, that is super exciting. I really hope to get a lot of good stuff there.
There's going to be a lot of times while we are covering all of the MCP action at Adepticon that you will see one of us leave to go play Shatterpoint for a little while other people cover what's going on. In addition to all those things, there was also an announcement this week that I may have slipped up with last week on the show. But the Worthy now officially going to be at Adepticon. So for you Dylan Dyers out there, for you Charles Shaws out there, for you Taylor William Hoyts out there, for you
say his whole name,
Daniel J. Coles, for you Tysons, for all of you that put together incredible models, there is one place to get recognized for it, and that is going to be the Worthy, which will be live at Adepticon next year. If you haven't gotten your tickets for that yet, the place to go do that is Adepticon.com. But maybe it's org. I forget. But Dan, not to be confused with regular Dan, we're here to talk about a bunch of Marvel Crisis Protocol.
I love talking about Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Very specifically, one of the ways we always start the show is with hobby thoughts.
Hobby.
Have you hobby this week? And if so, who is your daddy and what does he do?
No, not this week.
Dan!
I know.
You're like our person for that since Chuck quit.
To be fair, I did have surgery and wasn't really in.
Yeah, last week.
Yeah, a week ago.
You had last week off from hobbying.
Yeah.
This week should have been all about hobbying.
That's what you asked in the last week. No.
Fair.
I played a lot of Final Fantasy VII Remake, replaying that since I couldn't really get off the couch for a few days.
All right. Did you do anything different on this playthrough than your last playthrough?
I'm not sure, because it's been like 2 years since I played it, so I'm not sure
been.
exactly. I'm not sure how many things are that you could do that differently.
What an early pandemic special that was for both you and I, where we were both kind of playing that and having a good time with it.
My son loves it. He's always like, "You want to play the Final Fantasy game?" And I was like, "Yeah."
My son also enjoys it, but in a different way, where he can actually play the game. So he plays it poorly and doesn't read anything and doesn't care about the story. So he just gets to boss fights sometimes where he says, "Dad, can you beat this for me?" And then I look at his build and I'm like, "What is this? This is what I have to work with?"
I remember you telling me about that. You're like, "Why do you have one piece of material on Barrett and nothing on Aerith? How am I supposed to do this?
What am I supposed to do here? You have no healing. No wonder you're getting KO'd in every round, every boss fight."
You don't have 3 HP up material on each character? What are you doing?
He's got all guard block. What are you even doing with that? I don't even know how to use that. I've beaten the game twice. Like,
it's one of the. I'm trying to get more into the battle system where I'm definitely better at it than the first time I played through. A couple of the bosses that gave me a lot of trouble last time were like, no problem. The behemoth was like, yeah, whatever. Last time that almost killed me, so it's pretty fun.
Listen, Chuck is one of the smartest people I know. If you are paying attention to this show live, listen, he's got me pegged. But
you're not supposed to call that out,
right? Yeah. What are you?
But yeah, so I haven't gotten to do too much hobbying. Just because like sitting up at the table to paint was not doable for a few days at least. I recently got the Sentinels to like tabletop standard.
Nice.
Because we got to use the affiliation a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
With the the New Mutants scheme,
Mm-hmm.
Blue and Silver, which I'm pretty happy with. I just need to actually finish them now. And been playing some other games as well at the local store during the week.
Nice.
I haven't gotten to paint anything else yet, but put some things together.
Does that local store have a name?
Yeah, that would be Bearded Dragon Games.
Oh, cool. Do they have a website?
Yeah, you could totally go to beardeddragongames.online and get whatever.
What is there? Listen, I don't want to pay retail, though. Is there a way I could avoid that?
Absolutely. You can pre-order things, especially for MCP. We got Blob and Pyro up there. We got the Wolverine and Sabretooth Rivals pack. Don't have to use any code or anything for that. Get 15% off when you pre-order.
Whoa! 15% off? Not even using a code?
Pretty
Dan,
easy.
go on.
If you do use a code, though, you can use PCME10 to get 10% off
Nice.
everything else.
That's super cool. That's a lot of great information to have, Dan. Thank you.
So much great information.
As far as hobby stuff this week, you know that I always not necessarily phone it in for hobby stuff because it's heavily delegated for me. But
It's not even phoning it in. You're like, didn't do anything.
yeah, sometimes I straight up lie and say I do things that I intended to do but didn't do, but then get around to doing, and then I use it for next week's news as well. But this
Giving away
week,
all the secrets this week.
I moved a table.
What?
Yeah, that's right.
Table?
I can't know how to hear more about tables, but
Got it.
it took a lot. That took a lot of effort. But I moved a dining room table down to my basement this week. That is going to be my new priming, painting, dry brushing, and slap chopping spot.
Slap chop station.
So now I have it. The one thing I feel you need to do if you are into hobbying at all and it seems like a task is to start removing barriers.
Yeah.
When you think at the end of the day or at the start of the day or even to your friends at your LGS or in a Discord or whatever it is, what are the excuses you constantly tell people or that you constantly feel in why you aren't painting, aren't assembling, and aren't getting through your, gray plastic backlog?
Mm-hmm.
And it has, I'm trying to get a head start on my 2023 New Year's resolutions by removing the barriers now to prevent me from having those barriers next year.
Okay.
So I'm setting up my own little paint shop down cellar in the basement.
Slap chop chop.
Yeah, I work out there. That's where all my weight stuff and my exercise stuff is. So I might as well do my resting periods priming, painting, and dry brushing. Will that work out? Literally no idea, but I would like to think it would.
It's a great plan.
In theory, yeah, it's spot on. Spot on.
It's like really good
Yeah,
on paper.
correct.
Like Thor. But no, I like that idea. Having a dedicated space to do the hobby can really help.
Yes.
I don't have that right now. I used to, but it's behind the wall that has your cot and bucket.
Yep.
And the wall is blocking it. And now, so I just have like a little travel tray for paints and brushes and whatever models I'm working on. Typically, I take to the kitchen table.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like my biggest wall for doing that is just motivation.
Yeah.
Like, do I feel like painting? Because
Right.
like there are times where I can force it, where it's like, okay, I definitely want to use this model Monday. I know, yeah, the power phase, so I want to at least get it base coated and maybe some washes on it. But then it's like once I get it, I have this problem where once I get it to that point, now I'm like, well, I mean, it's good enough for stream, right? So like, what else am I supposed to do with it? And like, I want them to look nice, but it's finding that motivation to put that extra effort in. Like, I've already spent an hour on this model. The Sentinels more because they're just so big. But like, do I want to put another 3, 4, 5 hours to make it look decent, or is this good enough? And finding the motivation to take those extra steps can be difficult.
It can be. Absolutely. If there's a place that you would like to go, maybe for some tactical information to be able to start executing on your plans for models, very specifically painting and basing, there's actually a very good spot for it. Mr. Dylan Dyer, Dr. the D, has provided us with actually a whole bunch of blogs that are up on professionalcasual.com that tell you very straightforwardly exactly how to get the most out of the time and effort that you are spending on your models. And he did a very good job there. And it's one of, very realistically, one of the things that's really motivated me, someone who has literally never actually painted a full model before, to start taking the steps to getting that done.
Yeah.
Really appreciate Dr. D. I really appreciate the blogs that he is writing for the network. If you are curious or interested or have some experience or frame of reference on things that you would like to provide to the community for Marvel Crisis Protocol, please hit us up. Tim@professionalcasual.com is a great place to send an example of a blog or maybe some ideas you have. We are paying for that as well. One of the massive things about our Patreon at patreon.com/professionalcasual is that the funds that come in from that help us buy equipment, help us replace equipment, which unfortunately is heavily needed right now.
All of a sudden, it's a bunch of stuff at once.
It's a little overwhelmingly recently, but please consider supporting us there. We really appreciate that. It allows us to do the things that we do, provide coverage from conventions and larger tournaments, as well as be here every week and stream every week. Really appreciate all of you that help support us there, and also right here on Twitch. Literally every single one of you impacts us greatly, and I couldn't thank you enough. But painting is still this huge wall.
It's your white whale.
It really is. And there's no amount of money that you can spend on stuff too. I've bought extra brushes. I bought the Army Painter speed paint set.
Oh, I heard those are really good.
Yes, I also agree. I went to a store to go buy the it's not Gray Sear, but it's the equivalent of Gray Sear for Army Painter, to be able to dry brush for that slap chop method. And I ended up, having to go a whole roundabout way to get what I was looking for. But
that's the story of your life.
It really is. There's nothing that's simple for Tim the France. But listen, we get her done anyway. And 2023 is going to be considered the year that Tim painted.
I love that phrasing because it could just be once.
It could. It could.
Painted something.
And I'm okay with that. And that's actually kind of what I'm banking on.
That's so good.
It's just listen, I did it in 2023. I never have to do it again.
It's not the year Tim paints, continuously.
Nope.
It's the year he painted.
It's the year I painted.
There was a couple years ago, I started a list of all the things I painted that year, which was kind of good for motivation because it was I just want to make that list grow. I didn't continue it the whole year. I kind of forgot about it after a while. I actually started a list on my phone. I remember I had it written. I remember it was on the wall in the old game/store room of the house before everything got moved to the basement here. I had it on paper. Then on 2020, I was keeping track as well. I got all the way to September, actually.
Nice.
Which is a pretty good list.
So one of the really cool things that actually Big Chucks very specifically did last year was on the Discord, got kind of a group going that was listen, it's the end of the year. Let's get what we said we were going to do this year done. We still have the channel up in the Discord. I feel like in his memory, in his spirit, once again, RIP Drop Off and Big Chuck, it would be the time to reinvigorate that. And listen, starting right now, today is November 17th.
17th.
If you are listening to the podcast version, it came out on November 22nd.
22. You
have a little over a month to get done whatever it was you said you were going to do this year.
It's like a year-end resolution. I want to resolve this before the year's done.
The year-end resolution. Yeah, year-end.
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 Resolution. The resolution.
No breathing. Now's the time to start. Some might say it was January, but nope. It's actually now.
What's the year-end resolution?
Similar.
You didn't do it all year. You've got a little time left. Do it.
Similar to financial planning and planting trees. The best time to do that was yesterday. The second best time is now. Let's do that. Let's get done our backlog. There are models you have wanted on the table. There are models that you've put on the table that are not even primed or just primed. Between now and December 31st is when we're going to get that stuff done. We're going to do it as a group, and we're going to do it on the Discord.
I love it. What's your plan, Tim? What's your year-end resolution?
I said and committed to painting that Sentinel spider head bot on stream.
You did.
And then I worked till 9 p.m. that night.
You got, what's the word? Abducted by your work partner.
Correct. It happens.
Again.
It happens a lot.
Again.
A lot. And that is the one thing. There are very few things painting wise that I have said I was going to like amicably just 100% that I was going to do. That is something I have to do before the end of the year. Have to do. The Sentinels as a whole, I have given Taylor pretty much everything that I have outside of Baron Strucker and the Sentinels. Those are the things that I have to complete before year's end.
Wow. Sentinel head, Baron Strucker, and the Sentinels.
Yeah.
Sentinel spider bot.
Sentinel spider bot.
Baron Strucker.
He's
not too bad.
Nope.
And then the Sentinels.
But once again, I've never painted a model before.
It's a tall order for...
I am terrified. But you have to lead by example.
To be fair, doing the Sentinel spider bot first will give you a good idea of how you want to paint the Sentinels. It'll give you some practice.
Yeah.
Depending on which colors you go with. Are you going like classic purple and blue, whatever it is, or are you going like mango Sentinel?
I've actually been very clear at what I'm going to paint my Sentinels as.
I can't remember.
Listen, I know. Shout out to Danny. I don't know how you do it.
I don't remember anything.
But I am going to be doing the Marvel vs. Capcom style of Sentinel, which is the same colors, the purple and blue, but reversed.
Okay.
So blue head, purple torso.
So you get some practice doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Purple. Well, you
Purple
said
and blue.
blue head.
Yeah.
Purple torso. So what are their hands for the spider bot? I don't know.
Well, so I might not keep the same color scheme for the spider bot.
Fair.
But it has to be done. It has to be done before year's end. And it has to be all of them. I have 2 modes. Go big or never go home because I'm too busy going big. And
I'm just so busy going big.
Yeah, I just, so I'm going to do it. It's going to happen. And it's going to happen before the end of the year. And then 2023 will be the year Tim paints because he got that barrier out of the way. He broke down that wall and he got it done.
Wow.
But that's not the only thing that's happening between now and the end of the year, Dan.
What else is happening?
We're also going to be doing a little segment over the next few weeks called MCP 2022, A Year in Review.
A year in review.
It has been just about 1 year since Atomic Mass Games has released their 2022 card update. It impacted the game heavily.
It was significant.
It brought down the outliers. It brought up the underliers. And it made real champions out of people that, and characters and cards and models that were a little underwhelming at first. It was the great equalizer. It was what some might say the snap of MCP as a whole.
Snap that smiles back.
It brought balance to all things. Now, for week 1 of 2022, A Year in Review, and for this Year in Review series, we are going to talk about everything that has come out since that card pack last year, which was probably the biggest sweeping overall change to the game as a whole since its release. First off, here's the metrics we are going to be going by. How did the narrative to that affiliation, character, or tactics card change? Did it become stronger or weaker as a whole? Did it become more rewarding to play? And did it become viable, virile, as a whole. Dan, you and I have gone back and forth a little bit over the last little while, talking about the things that like rang true in our head like immediately. Guardians of the Galaxy for both of us, I think, spoke volumes, right?
As soon as you mentioned this idea, it was like, well, Guardians, obviously.
Right. And it's not that that's even like low-hanging fruit or like the obvious choice, because I still feel it's very still slept on. When I was at NashCon this year, one single person out of like the top 10 was playing Guardians, and he was a constant competitor the entire time. I played against him, and he trucked me, straight trucked, capital T trucked. And there are characters from the update, Groot very specifically, that got a huge, very, very, very nice overhaul that was heavily needed. Gamora got a pretty solid buff out of that as well.
More stamina is always good.
And stealth?
Yeah, she got a huge upgrade. What I find really interesting about Groot is that he got an upgrade and a nerf at the same time, and he's still just better.
Yeah.
His ranged increase on his builder, but then it's the healing can only be used once a turn.
Correct.
So, like, you can't just heal to full if you have enough power,
Yep.
but he's still got an upgrade overall and is a solid 3-threat.
And I think one of the huge cool things about MCP as a whole is characters increase and decrease in value over time based on the other characters that are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some heavy play with Groot against Malekith, who, when he first arrived on the scene, was an absolute terror. People were like, "This is the end of the game," and I think it's been months since anyone has even uttered that.
Right.
But
yeah, once we saw his card, there was a lot of doomsaying, and after people got some experience, you take him out with Sabretooth and Mystique.
Mm-hmm.
Can 1-2 punch him.
Yeah.
He learns, but. I see Groot as a big counter to that with I am Groot
and being able to throw size 4 characters medium.
Ugh.
When your Malekith becomes your biggest asset, and all of a sudden the thing that's being thrown into your Sam Wilson Captain America, it's a very different vibe very quickly.
Ouch time.
Yep. But so Dan, outside of Guardians, are there any affiliations that stuck out to you as completely reworked, rearranged, or now exciting to you based on either the 2022 card pack or the releases that have happened in the last year?
I think after Guardians, one that got, I wouldn't say an overhaul, but got new life by just one pack release, Asgard.
Yeah.
Had a huge buff with Heimdall and Scourge.
Mm-hmm.
Scourge is interesting because he seems like at first he seems like just another Asgardian, but for a 3-threat he brings such a different toolkit to the table than Valkyrie.
Yeah.
That he's great. Having that throw is awesome, aggressive. His attacks can be brutal, especially if you're bleeding already. So he works really well with Hela. And then Heimdall was another one where people thought he was going to break the game.
Yeah.
And he was going to be splashed into every list out there imaginable. And he still can be, but he really helped to make Asgard more viable, as you're saying. Like, helps make Thor himself more viable because he's so dice dependent. Having rerolls at all really improves his stack.
Yeah.
And it was just, Asgard needed some new life into them. Even just 2 models made it a huge difference.
Well, yeah, it brought down the threat curve as a whole, right? There was only one 3-threat character in Asgard before this release, and then it tripled that with both Scourge and Heimdall both being 3-threat. And one of the big things in that card pack that changed was Doomed Prophecy became Asgardian characters only.
Yeah, that was a big deal because that was taken all over the place and was kind of abused. Making it only Asgard was like, it dropped off the face of the planet until those guys came out, helped bring it back up. Trying to think of what other cards came with them besides Scourge's Weapons of Midgard.
I was going to say Weapons of Midgard immediately.
There was another one, wasn't there?
There was.
No, I can't remember.
To me, my Executioner, which allowed...
right.
Which allowed a teleport for Scourge
I thought you were joking at first.
No. No. When you first started that sentence, I was like, oh, yeah, Weapons of Midgard, remember? But then you
Of course,
said
I remember that one.
Right. But yeah, the bodyguard of Scourge who can teleport effectively to Enchantress from halfway across the board.
I always forget about it.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Now, granted,
a lot of more synergy within the affiliation that way.
And kind of not balanced out, but like made up for the fact that like Enchantress just received a little bit of a tweak in that card pack.
Yes. Yeah, she got some much needed tweaks.
It was needed. Yeah, I don't feel that was off base at all.
Again, she had some things that could easily be abused that were creating negative play experiences for opponents of Enchantress, which I fully support changing that up. It was a lot of like just once per turn instead of once per character type thing was huge for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Asgard got new life, new excitement with those characters. I'd love to see another pack this year with like Sif, Warriors 3. There's a lot. Beta Ray Bill, obviously.
Yeah!
Like there's a lot of choices we can have to expand that a little bit more. Because I feel like every affiliation benefits from just a little bit of expansion. They don't all have to be Avengers or Cabal.
Correct.
You know, they don't need a million characters, but, you know, I think 8 is a good spot for most affiliations to give you some choice. You can take them all in a roster, then a couple splashes, or if you're just not a big fan of whatever character, then you don't have to include them. But
you need room for Bullseye at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely.
So, like, yeah. And then you got one other, you know what I mean, that you can splash in there now.
Lizard, right? Basic boy.
I was going to say Honey Badger.
I like Honey Badger. Another 2.
Yeah.
If the affiliation doesn't have its own natural 2 threat, throwing in a couple of those.
Hydra Bob. Huge. Yeah, every time.
Toad.
I mean, Toad has seen a ton of play. We know that Toad as a whole is a very heavily taken character. And that card pack removed Okoye from that top spot and put Toad there instead.
That's true, because she lost a couple things.
Yeah.
Again, needed little tweaks.
Yeah.
But speaking of Toad, Brotherhood is another affiliation that got huge buffs over this year. Mostly in affiliation expansion with Juggernaut. We got Rogue, Gambit, Colossus. Like, I mean, Juggernaut and Rogue were the 2 big ones, but they got a lot more options.
Yeah.
In just a couple weeks, we'll have Pyro and Blob that everybody's been asking for from as soon as X-Men were in the game. They got a lot of life breathed into them.
Brotherhood specifically is going to start 2023 very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong. The addition of Pyro adds a lot of what Brotherhood was missing. And Blob is Blob. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but nothing can move him.
I have heard that nothing can move the Blob.
He also belly flops on people from range and has a place. So, like...
I cannot wait for that pack.
I guess I don't know what else you need.
My year-end resolution is to get my Rivals Dr. Octopus painted, because I assembled him weeks ago.
Yeah. Shout out to Tomb Raven Games.
Yes. I got the Adirondacon. And then to definitely get all the December releases painted before the end of the year. Pyro, Blob, Logan the Wolverine, and Sabretooth Apex Predator, and the motorcycle.
That's a lot. Once again, if you are looking for a place to send your motorcycle, the place for that is P.O. Box G. That's G as in golly. That's a lot of motorcycles. West Oneonta, New York 13861. Please do not send motorcycles there if you actually want to use your motorcycle. I only want excess motorcycles that will be unloved, as I will love them and will do incredible things with them. Probably by 2026, 2027 at the latest. But
I do want to address one thing in chat. People are saying for Guardians, Rocket got a buff with his nimble rule, so he can't be hurt by collisions at all. Which is... It was the best thing about it was there was like a blog post about it or something where AMG said the main thing for that was people would constantly just throw Groot into Rocket and take him out. And it was like, oh man, I wish I'd ever thought of that. And now I can't.
That was a huge benefit to Guardians. I think the biggest was winging it tokens as a whole. The affiliation ability for that affiliation changed pretty drastically.
Needed it so bad.
And it did very well.
Yes,
it
it's
feels,
a good affiliation ability now instead of the worst.
It is. Listen, if you don't roll 3 to 6 skulls per roll like I do, it's probably one of the best affiliation abilities out there.
Didn't you have a roll on Monday that was just 3 skulls?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, can't use strategic genius on that one.
Yeah. It was a defense roll. Guess what? All the damage went through. Sure did. But yeah, the way that the Guardians of the Galaxy affiliation changed was pretty monumental. So instead of having to sacrifice a tactics card, which has become more and more important over time, you just get 3 tokens every round. You place them on whoever you want, and they can re-roll 2 dice on attacks, on defense, on dodges. Solid, stellar.
Yeah, it just became like, and it was one you're going to use it every turn.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of leadership abilities that don't work all the time always.
Yep.
Like,
have you ever heard a plan from Star-Lord? Because I think it's incredibly spot on.
Got 12% of a plan.
Is it better attacks? I don't know. Could be. Is it better defenses? Probably.
I don't know. Do you need to dodge something somebody threw at you? I mean, just wing it.
Is someone throwing a card? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so good. I think kind of ironically with Brotherhood getting a little buff, new life, at the same time X-Men did as well with Gambit and Rogue, Colossus, but then also Magic, X-23, Honey Badger. Like a lot of people, X-Men are constantly ones we see tons of at events. People love X-Men.
Yep.
I think a lot of that is just people love X-Men in general.
That and the X-Men Gold, Storm's ability is very strong.
Hers is really good.
Yep.
I think a lot of people lament a lot of a few of the X-Men stats, but I think as an affiliation, they're still good.
Yeah.
They are a well-loved affiliation.
Well, and there's
regardless of some of their negatives.
But there are characters like Magic that are taken in a lot of other affiliations because they do fill a very specific role for affiliations that don't necessarily have access to it. Teleports, being able to teleport allies or foes with Journey Through Limbo, as well as heavy access to only Mystic and Energy attacks, is sometimes very solid.
Well, just the other day against Brian, he took Magic and a Wakanda list to add some teleports and Mystic specifically.
And it worked very well for him. Very well for him.
Yeah, Magic was one that, when we first read the card, I remember we were a little disappointed that she wasn't just a more powerful character, but she has a really good role. So she fulfills her role really well.
She does.
She's a really good 3 threat. She gets a lot of work done all over the place.
She's an anti-mage mage. So against Mystic attacks, she can do the Doctor Strange thing where it turns wilds into blanks and stuff like that.
So good.
In addition to also being heavily energy and Mystic based.
Yep.
She's the old anti-mage mage.
I like it. Anti-mage mage.
Not only that, you know how much we love Incinerate here.
Oh, it's our favorite.
And having a tactics card that could teleport someone like an enemy juggernaut away and also incinerate them is awesome.
Goodbye.
Or teleport an incredibly nuisanced Steve Rogers into a dog pile of your own team. Also incinerated. Also great.
Yeah, I love that. What is Journey Through Limbo? Such a good one. I think last time I used her was with the first time I tried Convocation recently.
Yeah.
And I think it was the only card I had that day that I didn't get a chance to use. I think you either took her out too soon or just didn't really come up, kind of thing. But it has a lot of potential. There's a lot of good stuff there.
And fits the narrative heavily, right? Where Limbo is the neutral ground. It's not an offensive card. It's not a defensive card. It's all of it.
You're right.
It takes up that entire middle spot.
That card reminds me of someone else who got a big buff, which helped Midnight Suns a little bit, Defenders a little bit, but Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
His improvements were pretty needed, and he's just a tank beat stick now, and he got kind of gross. But I don't see him often.
I hate facing him, and I face him often. It feels like
he's like just powerful enough. I feel like he's on the edge of being a negative play experience for your opponent, but he's not quite there because he has obvious drawbacks.
Yeah,
but
does he though? Because you can just attack him and try to defeat him, and then he just comes back because Wong's on the table too.
Well, I mean, if somebody takes away his hell on wheels, it not as good.
That's true. So I will say, as far as tournament settings go as a whole, I think people should implement what we implement here on the power phase, where you can affect the game, take away superpowers, not innates, but everything else.
Yeah, that was oof.
You can take away. But James Russell,
just gonna.
When you said Ghost Rider, the first thing that came to my head was Yo Hulk, though.
Yeah, I feel like we still sleep on Hulk.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
We know how good he is now. Hulk Not Puny Banner was such an increase to his defensive ability, along with his increase
his actual increase to defensive ability.
That was so badly needed. His increased strike, like, he got so much better. And we still never take him. Why do we ever take Hulk? I know you don't like... You're not as big of a fan of the high threat characters because you just want your
as
play
many
style
characters
is
on the
more
table,
anyway, which is why Hydra's so perfect.
Oh
for
my
you.
gosh, it is.
It's your affiliation to a T, which is Tim. But yeah, Hulk is another one. Somebody, I think it was Ravensguard earlier, mentioned that just in general, Avengers got a huge buff. Steve got better. Iron Man got his Friday AI reduced in power.
Yep.
Hulk got way better. There are other examples I can't think of off the top of my head.
Falcon was a 2021 edition, right?
I believe so.
I think so too. It's difficult because in researching this particular episode, I was looking at release dates. And it's difficult to find past release dates for things.
Fair.
But
they may have been super early. No, I believe they were 21.
Yeah, I
they
think
had
they were
that
21 as well.
Christmas leak of like Carnage and Mysterio, Sam Cap, War Machine.
Yep.
But that wasn't last Christmas by any means, so
Correct.
they were definitely 21.
One of the other big things we saw this year was Shadowlands Daredevil.
Ooh, big change to Criminal Syndicate.
It really was. One that was like, I stuck to heavily.
Yeah, you were a big fan of him for a while.
Yeah, I was. I mean, re-rolling against people that were doing the thing that I should have been doing, and that is taking objectives.
Yeah.
I really liked. Also, the addition kind of grunts as a whole.
Oh, man, how did I not think of... Yeah, grunts in general. We've only had 3 so far, but it's a big...
But one just came out. We've had the other 2 for a lot of the year.
And there's so much potential for that. Like, I really want... Like, now... More and more, I want to see Iceman come with like ice golem grunts. That would be super cool. Something like there's so much potential with that. People talk about like buckethead aim soldiers all the time.
And in all seriousness, the Iceman thing is absolutely something I'll cut out of this episode. But
I gotta slip it in there each time, just a little something, just to be like, don't forget about him.
But S.H.I.E.L.D. as a whole coming into the light in 2022, as well as Shadow War, Winter Guard, Sentinels. What else did we have? There was a bunch there.
So much. I mean, 2022 has been a busy year for me.
Yeah.
There have been like 2, maybe 3 months that we didn't get releases, and other months had like 5 boxes.
Right.
August had 3 with Malekith and the 2 Winter Guard boxes.
Oh, yeah, Wild Hunt.
Which was like, woof.
Yep.
Anytime that they add a new leader to an affiliation is a great way to breathe new life into it. Because it totally changes how that affiliation plays. Like Shadowlands Daredevil is so... was a Shadow War Criminal Syndicate is so different from Kingpin's Criminal Syndicate. They just play completely differently. It's like different affiliations, but it's the same characters. What's Kingpin's called? I can't remember now.
I don't know. I'm assuming just Criminal Syndicate.
What?
You have the site up.
I turned off my tablet a while ago. I'm going to bring it up because now I'm curious.
And that was huge for me. I ran the list or the roster or the squad, whatever you want to call it, that Nate GG had put out a video of. I really appreciate him and what he does. I feel he is incredibly complementary to the game as a whole. And that all rapid fire and rerolls list, I adored. I ran it at a tournament here locally that you and I went to.
Yeah.
Which is the first time we met Ben and Alyssa.
Just gems of people.
For real, who have become incredibly impactful to the network as a whole. And what a fun list. Hood as a whole also was just way up my alley in adding a little bit of support, but always as a detriment. Is something
So
that I've
cool.
provided to my friends and family for a long time, you know?
Right. He fits in your Hydra so well, too.
He
Because, like, oh, you have
does.
bleed? Hydra's like, oh, well.
Oh, no! I will say, running Hydra against Sentinels.
That was an unintentional hard counter.
Yeah. I do appreciate that you hard countered it even harder by being like, yeah, let's do Legacy Virus. And I was like, okay.
I wish that was intentional.
All right. Fair.
I wish I could say I planned that, but I was like, let's play another Crisis that not on the same location.
You're already immune to half of the things I can offer, and then, you know what? Fine, whatever, cool.
To be fair, I forgot the healing conditions most of the time anyway.
Right.
Real quick, Kingpin's leadership ability is called Illicit Network.
Nice.
How did we forget that one?
For real.
I mean, the year in review, I mean, we could just go on and on about things that came out and how much we loved all of them.
Grunts as a whole was kind of a big deal.
And it was just cool to have something that, like, when it reminded me a lot of when Ant-Man and Wasp came out and we got the transform mechanic.
Yes.
That we've seen a few times. Like Miss Marvel,
Hood.
There's not a ton of them, but it's a new mechanic that does something new and cool and different where grunts are, like, very different, where, you know, you have this unit essentially with multiple models, but they don't have to be near each other even and work together. Every time I play one, though, I always try to, like, Nick Fury, I want him to go first, then the grunts, but you don't get to choose that, which probably why they set it up that way, because it's just too good otherwise. I want to see more grunts, 100%.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what else we get.
I feel like they've done it very well, too, just kind of as a whole, as far as keeping it a little bit contained, where it's not every affiliation now has a grunt, right? It's a couple. They come out seldomly. And when they do, it makes incredibly thematic sense.
Like, you just got to use new Red Skull with his Hydra Troopers.
I did. And once again, those grunts have fallen into the same line as the ninjas did for me and as the shield grunts did for me as well, where they're the most deadly model on the table.
That's so good. I haven't
Hydra
totally
Troopers,
finished watching that game, but
yeah,
it's gotta be good.
Those Hydra Troopers spiked like 6 successes on a range 4, strength 4 energy attack that just dropped a model. A Koye. I was like, I'll weaken up a Koye a little bit. I'll soften her up so she can't bodyguard as much. Nope, just down in a single attack.
Well, that's your strength. You know, strength 4 attack is your sweet spot.
It really is.
You don't want to roll 9 dice because you're gonna roll 8 skulls anyway.
And
but if you roll
did.
4 attack dice, you're gonna hit 3 or 4 or 5 of those things.
I will say, just to touch on that game very quickly. What's the Victory Assured is the card on Red Skull. Used it at its maximum amount. If you're unfamiliar with how Victory Assured works, Red Skull, Master of Hydra, gets a B3, I believe 6 strength attack for 0 power. He can take up to 5 damage to add a die
Oh no.
for every attack on that profile.
Oh, that's what you use it on the beam, right?
So I was like, I think there's a way to set this up so I can attack Brian's Black Panther, Shuri,
Whole flank.
and Iron Man with a beam 3, 11 dice each.
Yeah, gross.
Out of those,
Oh, it's another card. Okay.
out of those 33 dice, I did 5 damage to myself because I maxed it out.
Yep, naturally.
And I did 4 damage total
Oh, it's 4?
to the 3 targets.
Wow, that's pretty good. I thought it was like 1 or 2.
It was 1 or 2 per character minus 1 that just took nothing.
That's so bad.
I did 0 damage to Black Panther.
Naturally.
I did 2 damage to Okoye and 2 damage. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okoye was already dazed at that point because the Hydra Troopers can apparently roll more damage on 4 dice than Red Skull, Master of Hydra, can roll on 11. I did 2 damage to Shuri and Iron Man. Nothing to Black Panther, and I took 5.
And you did a lot to set up that beam, too, like, because you were like, all right, let's probably shooting myself because I'm not picking up a cube, but, you know, I'll daze 2, maybe even 3 characters.
Yeah. What if
How about none?
How about just 0 of them? What if the answer was just not there? But listen, those are my rolls that happened. There was a couple others where I had spenders that rolled 4 blocks and 3 skulls. Like, it's just, that's just that Tim France luck. But
there was one roll I remember where you had 3, it must have been a defensive roll. You had 3 dice, you rolled 2 skulls and a crit. And you're like, all right, well, at least the crit gives me a chance to use Strategic Genius. And you rolled it to another skull. And you're just like, yep, that tracks.
Should have used arrogance.
It's amazing how you still put out so much damage
Yeah.
with rolls like that. Where there are games where I'm like, against Guardians. Last time you played Guardians, I was like, all right, I got a pretty offensive list. I forget. I think that was when I took the Wizards.
Yes,
Convocation. With
the
Ghost
Sentinel.
Rider? Was it the Sentinel? There was fairly recently I used Ghost Rider. I can't remember what it was in.
Mm-hmm.
And you just pounded on damage like crazy.
It was against Guardians because I remember throwing them with Groot.
Yes.
Yep.
Because that was the game Alyssa she took a power.
Banned every power.
Took a power off of took a superpower off of each character. Her and Ben together had to use all their channel points.
Which, if you are unfamiliar with our live stream, the Power Phase on Monday nights right here on the Twitch, you can spend channel points to ban superpowers and reactives. You can spend channel points to give people power. You can spend channel points to take away people's power.
Dirt.
You can spend channel points to force us to play a particular character in the following week, or give a particular character or player a bunch of rerolls. If there's a character you really want to see perform, maybe that character is on the Winter Guard, and maybe you're a huge fan of the Winter Guard, and maybe I would play the Winter Guard expecting you, very specifically, Ben, to spend points to help me. And then you do the opposite.
You took your power away. I laughed so hard at that.
I misread it 6 times.
I thought I was
like,
faint.
That's not what it means.
It's so
No,
good.
he made a mistake.
Just that about face. Oh my god.
But it's an incredibly fun time. Monday nights on the Twitch right here. Spend points to inflict
conditions on the players,
usually against me.
Confusion.
But it's an absolute blast.
So with year review, what about year ahead? Other than that, not just our typical wish list. What's something you would like to see for the game in general? Maybe a little more general in 2023.
So we know 0 things currently.
Just the Hydra
outside
tank.
of the Hydra
That's
tank
it.
organized.
We have
play.
nothing else.
We've heard rumors about it. It seems like we're being set up for it, but it does seem like we might have an overhaul to objectives.
Totally down for that. Different way to play the game? Yes.
Yep.
I like any other options to play the game.
Correct.
Like ultimate encounters.
Yep.
Organized play kits. Anything like that. If there's something else to play it a different way, I'm down. Just because I love the options.
I would love, and I know other people have said this is not new, but having a longer narrative event.
Yes.
That is not custom content, that is something AMG actually puts out, I think would be very welcome.
I like a campaign style would be amazing.
Especially for local game stores. I think that would be stellar. In addition to that, the whatever it ends up being, this reimagining of Crisis, or just a shake-up, so that it's not so like I always have to run these 3 things, and I know if I have this base, then I can do this stuff. I think the the premeditated portion of Marvel Crisis Protocol sometimes takes away from the overall fun.
It can.
Alfredo's Taco Truck actually just put out a very good video on how to not lose before deployment.
I saw that.
And
I like the title of that. It was good.
And I think compared to other miniatures games, and especially skirmish games, MCP has done one of the best jobs as a whole preventing that feeling of like, I lost before the game started.
Yeah, because there's such good bounce back mechanics and whatnot that you don't.
Correct.
I felt like I've lost because of my deployment, but I think that's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the idea of shaking up the crises because we haven't had one in over a year,
Right.
or about a year. The last one we got was the Roget and Gambit box.
One of my favorite, Crisis Eye, by the way. I did play that against Brian this past week.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
The ambush token ones, not only is it high threat, everyone loves high threat, except for Keepler.
Yes.
Shout out. But it is, if you are choosing a lower threat, it is strategic and not fun based.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So
I mean, more threat means more characters on the table, usually better time. But I forgot where I was going with that.
that's fair.
What was I saying? We haven't had a new crisis in a while.
Yeah.
There's only about 24 or so the combinations can get a little stale.
Mm-hmm.
It's starting, not nearly as bad, but it's starting to remind me a little bit of Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition, where there were 6 different scenarios to play. And they never came out with more. That was it. For the whole life of the game, of that edition, there were 6 to play in a standard game. I
do feel it's an unfair comparison because it has been updated somewhat regularly up until recent history. And I think we know as a whole that there's some change happening there. We have no idea what it is. If it's reworked older Crisis Eye, if it's a new Crisis Eye system as a whole, if it's just, a new larger dearth of crises.
Yeah,
or a changing to the maps.
I imagine
it could be any
get a new option. Like you can play with the original Crisis rules, but then there's also you can play this way instead.
Yeah,
if you want. I don't know what that's going to look like. There's so many things they could do with that. I don't want it to go away from the objective-based game.
Correct.
Obviously.
Yep.
But I mean, the crises they've come out with so far, half the time I'm like, how do they come up with this stuff? Like, what?
Yeah.
This is so cool. So I don't know if I just want more crisis cards or something very different. I know the biggest complaint I ever hear from people about this game is the fact that the crisis cards are spread out throughout different character packs. Mm-hmm. Which, for people like us that have been playing from the very beginning, has not been a problem. But people that join later, it's like, well, I can't find this box anymore because it's not in production or it's difficult to find, but I want to have this crisis card. I'm going to kind of assume AMG's going to get away from that and go for more like yearly card packs. So it's like, here's a card pack that has a bunch of crises in it, maybe some errated like tactics cards. I don't think... Maybe we'll get a yearly card pack like the 2022 card pack with updated character cards. They implied pretty heavily they weren't going to do that. It wasn't going to be like a regular thing.
I think that is the right call to not say that it's yearly and to not have it yearly. You don't want every June, July, August to be like, well, it's all changing in a couple months anyway.
Right.
So I'm not going to do any of this until I know what's up. I think altering and affecting the game when it needs it is the way to go. Mm-hmm. And to put any cycle or rotation about that is you're already in the wrong frame of mind as far as supporting a healthy game system. Just in general as a whole. You don't want to get into that, GW, like, well, it's been 2 years, so it's a new edition, and you have to rebuy all your books.
Yep.
You don't want people to ever have that feeling of just like, well, I'm part of the cycle now. If I know I'm busy personally in the next 2 months, there's no point in playing the game for the next year. That's a very bad feeling. That's a very bad play experience. And that very legitimately is what took me out of Warhammer as a whole and brought me to MCP.
That's a huge part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that the game is turning 3,
Yep.
like about now,
Big year. Actually, very, very, very big year.
which it's a good time to start shaking it up and
Yep.
giving it some change. I don't think any of the core stuff is going to change at all. Just the way that, changing how the crises work would be a core thing, but like,
Yes.
I don't think they're going to ever ban characters. I don't think they're ever going to anything like that or have those on a rotation. Like, if the character is in CP number 1 through 50, you can't use it, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't think they'll ever do anything like that, like Magic does.
Right.
Or like, you only use the last 3 cycles or whatever kind of thing.
That is somewhat exactly what they're doing.
Well, they're doing something similar with tactics cards. I'm saying with
Yes.
characters.
Yes.
I don't think they ever will. I think that'd be crazy.
Correct.
That's the game's all about. But
Bullseye.
I would like to see some. You just said just bullseye.
Yeah, just in general, both the character and response to your comment.
Bullseye. But I would like to see something. Just give us a big shakeup. I'm fine with that personally. Like, I don't play this game nearly as much as some people out there. When we're talking to like the Montreal Shark Tank, where they play 30 games a week, like, I would get bored of this game too fast with that. Just with my ADD mind, like, I don't want to play it that much.
Also, just in general, shout out to the Montreal Shark Tank.
Great guys, love them.
A bunch of really good people.
I want something different constantly, which
Yeah.
this game is perfect for me. So, like, the fact that we haven't had a new Crisis card in a long time is like, I don't want to play any of these Crises anymore. I've done them before. Like, I just want something new all the time, which is probably a character flaw of mine. But, it's like AMG or MCP's been really good at feeding that for me.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, it's a new month, so there's new models coming out. There's new options. There's new things to do.
And I think it's almost built into the structure of the game as a whole, right?
Yes.
Where we saw Rogue and Gambit come out, and it affected a lot of affiliations. Rogue was incredibly popular out of affiliation.
She was a big splash choice, even for a 4.
In Convocation, in Cabal, Rogue was, chucking size 4 terrain all over the place.
She's so good.
Gambit, not as much, but listen, you know what I mean? He's, Gambit.
Another one. He's not bad,
He's
but
an
he's
Omega
not
level
rogue.
mutant that, got lobotomized on purpose.
Oh,
He is. He is. Look it up. Omega level mutant.
I'm not gonna look it up right now.
I know you're not, but like in 6 to 7 weeks when you're like, I remember my name's Dan Cole when I said Gambit was an Omega level mutant. I'll be like, no, that's not how it happened. But that'll be the one episode I'm not on.
I think that'll ever happen.
Yeah, fair. Once again,
We'll
because
make
I'm
it
here
happen
to defend
somehow.
Gambit as an Omega level mutant.
I have no problem with Gambit.
Being an Omega level mutant.
All right, so in the Krakoa era, he's not on the list of Omega level mutants.
Because he was lobotomized by Mr. Sinister.
But he can be resurrected
20 years
without
ago.
that lobotomizing.
He is resurrected as he was remembered by Professor X's backups, his psychic backups. Psychic backups
okay.
are affected by lobotomies.
I can see that. Okay, that's a good argument. Okay,
Yeah.
Chuck.
Listen, Gambit's very strong, very powerful. And the fact that his card that says the word steal in it doesn't steal objectives is a shame.
I know Keebler is still mad about
No,
that.
that was actually specifically for him.
It is a shame that he doesn't have a steal thing like Black Cat, but at the same time, I get why they wouldn't want that too
yeah.
often. Like, it's a super powerful mechanic,
It's incredibly impactful.
and it was like they built him more as a turret than the objective stealer. Like, they would have to I think they would have had to totally overhaul his attacks, do something totally different. He's all about generating those wild effects.
Yep.
As like a wild card.
Yep.
I like that about it.
I think it's perfect.
I don't think he needs the steal.
Yep.
I could see getting a different version of Gambit somewhere down the line where he is more the thief instead of the fighter.
He's more of the what?
The thief?
Oh, was there an H in the word you said earlier?
No.
Oh, okay.
I love that episode. He was talking about the thieves and assassins.
Yeah.
I love that episode of the 90s show.
But
Assassins look weird.
I think that'll bring us to a close. There are a couple honorable mentions that simply we didn't have time for. As you know, on this particular show, when Dan and I are together, we go on tangents pretty heavily.
We're pretty good today.
We were.
Outside of Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Some honorable mentions that were heavily changed and saw a very nice expansion over the course of the year. Black Order.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that before, and then we forgot about them.
Yeah.
First of the Black Order. Huge change to that affiliation.
Very big one.
You don't have to take Thanos anymore.
There was a very clear 4-model splash that could effectively go into any roster that could just allow you to play Black Order if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And that has changed up pretty considerably now.
Super Giant and Black Swan were huge.
Very, very, very huge models.
Really,
out of all the models that are all in my garage that I won't go into because my mother-in-law's cats are there and I'm scared to let them out and be blamed for them running away, Black Swan is certainly the one there that I really want to get out of my garage.
Still there. Just send your son in.
Tried.
He won't do it?
It's a matter of, as soon as you open that garage door, those cats are going to take off.
How does she feed them?
Listen, I'm not going to get into that right now. It involves literally the process that I just said, except no one else is around. So it seems made up still. You know what I mean? It's one of those, like, I'm invisible if no one can see me.
Somehow your mother-in-law feeds them, but no one knows how?
She goes into there.
Could you just ask her to grab that model for you?
I don't know how to... So, once again...
I don't know if this is possible. Just say as a potential solution.
Listen, if there is someone that offers immediate solutions all the time, I think it's usually me. And...
That's true.
And I have gone through the gambit, a charming thief, some might say, of options to get my Black Swan out of my garage. And...
she's still there.
None of them have prevailed. Yeah, Black Swan's there. My Onagab is there. If you're an Adeptus Mechanicus player, I have a Tech Priest. I have probably a couple units of the mounted dudes from Adeptus Mechanicus.
Oh yeah.
On the Chicken Walkers.
Oh, the Chicken Walkers.
Yes.
The Dragoons.
Yes.
Sidonian Dragoons.
Mm-hmm. I have them in there. There's a lot. There's actually 2 to 3 probably Onagab in there.
Yeah.
So
you had a sizable AdMech army.
I did.
It's trapped.
I did.
Forever.
Trapped.
Trapped, I say.
With Black Swan, who I've never been able to use.
Just go get them.
I'm gonna let those cats out.
Just get something to hold in front of you as like another wall as you open the door, and then you can slip in.
You know, cats can jump, right?
Just yell a bunch or something. I don't know. Scare them away from you. Hey, get away, you cats! I haven't spent a lot of time around cats.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm trying to take that into account here, but just know that any aggressive movement towards a cat, any yelling towards a cat, provides an unexpected direction that they fly.
They're like a football when they bounce. You never know which way they're going to go.
That's actually that's it.
Most of my experience with cats have been my sister's cats over the years. And the last cat she had did not like me.
Yeah.
There was a time where visiting her one time and she was like, oh, if you need another blanket, whatever, just go down to the basement and get one. This cat was huge. First of all, I went down to the basement to get a blanket.
Yep.
Going back up, the cat's just standing on the stairs. But like lengthwise across the stairs, so I couldn't go past him. And I was like, move. Go, just like shoo. And he just looks at me. And then like I tried to move and he like got closer and I was like, no, because I don't want to touch him with the blankets. Because then it gets cat hair on the blankets.
Correct.
That I'm going to sleep with.
Yep.
And then I'm going to be uncomfortable and my eyes will itch. I'm going to sneeze and it's going to be not fun. And he just wouldn't get out of the way till he started hissing at me. So then I was like, Daddy, come help me get this cat. I hated that cat. It's dead now.
Oh, that took a turn.
He died like 7 years ago, but...
Listen, that's still recent.
Not really.
Yes, it is. Dan, do you have a pet? Have you ever had a pet that has died in the last 7 years?
Yes.
You still think about it.
I didn't like that cat. He was mean. He also... So we were staying in this little guest room that wasn't really a guest room, and we tried to like put something up against the door. Otherwise, he just pushes the door open and comes in because it wouldn't latch. And we kept trying to put something else there, and then he would just make it in anyway. He was big enough, and he would push the thing out. Oh, we had a diaper pail because Lily was a baby.
Yeah.
And he would just push it out of the way, and finally we just gave up.
Do you think a diaper pail, just as a heads up, just as far as your experience, do you think a diaper pail, even sideways, could block an entire garage door opening for me to get in to block Black Swan?
No.
Okay, all right.
Thinking like a plastic tote lid, maybe, or like 2 of them. Hold one up higher.
I don't know if my garage is narrow enough for 4 tote lids to block the entire width of the door.
Oh, I keep forgetting that it's a... Oh, never mind.
It's a garage, Dan. Garages have garage doors.
I've never had a garage when any place I've lived.
Wow. Okay.
I totally forgot it's like a whole garage door that has to open up. I kept imagining like a door you open. I've been to your garage a bunch of times.
You have. We ate pizza out of there for my birthday this year.
Like 4 years.
Yeah.
How'd I forget that? Okay, that does make a difference.
Yeah.
All right, so you need to enlist your son to build a contraption to build like a secondary wall as the door opens. Long story short, that cat got into our bedroom, the room we were sleeping in, and it just knocked stuff over all fucking night. Was just that cat.
Daniel.
I know, he got me worked up there.
Yeah, he did. Daniel. Gosh.
My bad.
Gosh.
Cats.
All right, DJ. But here's the deal. If you or someone you love has an idea,
Has been abused by cats,
in how to get my Black Swan out of my garage, hit us up on Instagram at The Professional Casual. You can hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/professionalcasual. You can email me directly at tim@professionalcasual.com. You can even go to the website and leave a comment, and it will go to my email as well. There's a bunch of ways to do that, but the one place to do it would be in an Apple Podcast review or a Spotify rating or... maybe just an old Audible review.
You never remember to do that in this show.
Right.
That would be super appreciated and really helpful to help other people find the show.
Help us get into the ears of other people that need to understand why Bullseye's the best character, why Iceman will never come out in this game, and why Dan gets real animated about cats. That said, that really does help us out a lot. We also really heavily appreciate, as I said earlier in the show, our patrons at patreon.com/professionalcasual.
For real.
Especially Cyder Drinker, Bicon, Leroy, Tony Hot Hands, Rob. There may even be a new addition to that list. Bastion is not one of the new ones. But Dr. D!
Dr. D! Cake sitter!
Has become a professional cake sitter this week. And we really want to thank all of our professional cake sitters and our King Dean Doppeldongers.
Thanks, Dylan.
For supporting us and allowing us to do what we do every week. So thank you guys so much. We really wouldn't be able to do it without your support. Thank you. And thank you to everyone at every tier of the Patreon. Even the research team that gets access to the Discord, gets access to a whole bunch of stuff where when we put out something that I'm like, just all patrons. It goes to everybody. Guys, thank you so much. Legitimately, really, there is a tremendous cost to doing what we do, and equipment fails and needs to be replaced. This is we're going into our 3rd year here, and it is one of those times where, you know what, there's a lot of expense.
Don't buy all your stuff at the same time. Try to stagger it.
To doing what we do. And we very legitimately couldn't do without you, so thank you. That said, though, right here on the Twitch, if you follow us, you get access to the Discord as well. If you have Amazon Prime, you get a free sub every month. You don't even need to spend the $1 a month on the Patreon. You can just get access to the Discord by subbing right here. Once again, those reviews are super impactful as well. Helps us get to more ears, more ear holes, and more people that need to understand why Phantom X should be in the game. Lastly, we are going to be at Everwinter on the weekend of December 10th in downtown Boston. Please, if you haven't already, head to wickeddicey.com. If you are anywhere in the Northeast area, pick up your tickets. We will be giving away some raffle tickets to listeners of this particular program. If you are going to that event, we will also be hosting a seminar there that you can sign up for. I believe it is listed under Expert Streaming by the Professional Casual Network. That is a very limited seating event only. You will have access to all of us directly if you have ever considered trying to get into streaming or broadcasting as a whole. And we will be giving you literally all of our secrets.
Not all of them.
We have 3. I'll give away at least 2.5. But
Unheard of.
LVO we will be at as well, broadcasting and streaming all of the probably largest in-person MCP tournament ever. 200 tickets.
200.
All sold out.
200 players.
I would absolutely plug you to go buy tickets to that event, but you can't. You know what you can do, though, is head over to wickeddicey.com, buy tickets to Everwinter, and qualify for LVO. If you want to get into that tournament, and especially get into that tournament and get a pretty decent advance on a lot of the other people going, the place to do that is any LVO qualifier. Everwinter is one of the places to do that. Not only that, Taylor has been slap shopping right here on the Twitch on Tuesdays. I'm going to be slap shopping either in person or on stream here very shortly as well. The gentleman that created the slap chop is also going to be doing a seminar at Everwinter. Once again, downtown Boston, the weekend of December 10th. Please come hang out with us because it should be pretty fun.
I'm super excited.
They have recently expanded to a larger venue. This is a growing season for them. As far as getting into a convention, like as it is really hitting its peak and growing to the area it wants to grow to, it's one to get into. Boston downtown, super great, super safe. I've been there. I didn't die. You know what I mean?
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. I was not super conscious for most of it, but like, listen, I went to a Celtics game for a work deal.
What?
In the box.
What? Why did you do that?
2018.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. Before the network was around, I was in a suit. You know what I mean? I was working for Liberty Mutual. Liberty Bibbity. You know, Limu the Emu was like, hey, Tim, you know where you should go? The Skybox at the Celtics stadium.
I have no idea.
For the season opener.
Ah, that's cool.
And I went, and then I wandered around downtown Boston. And was fine. So, great place to go. Great place to see. Great place to see us in downtown Boston. The weekend of December 10th. Guys, thank you so much. As always, we love you. Stay safe. And remember, it doesn't matter how you paint. It just matters if you paint. I'll go with it.
Matters that you paint.
Yes. It matters that there's paint.
Somewhere. In existence.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
I'm going to give you a real quick, real quick deep cut, right? You want this, right? Smarties. You have them left over from Halloween. And Necco wafers. No one ever eats them. They're gross. So, grind them all up. By color. Into a pallet, right? It turns into a powder. Add a little bit of milk. Okay? Not skim. Not 1. Not 2%. Whole milk. This will make a paint between the Smarties and the milk. It's pretty much like a contrast. It's almost like an ink. Paint your models with that. Send me the results. Twitter.com/TopTierCasual.
Please don't do
Instagram @TheProfessionalCasual. Regular email tim@professionalcasual.com. These are the places to send your Milk Smarty Necco Wafer painting projects.
Just buy paint.
Don't do it. You have the materials in your house. Don't buy paint.
It's a waste of good milk.
Just make milk paint.
I want to see you paint your spider head bot, Sentinel spider bot with Milk Smarty paint.
It was ready. That night I was supposed to stream, when I got held over at work, I had so much shtick planned. I felt it was wasted, that I'd prepared so much, so now I'm leaving it to you.
There's one secret.
At home. There's still more out there. Listen, what I figured out how to do with the shell around sprees is inspired. But
When do you come up with these things?
listen. Mostly, I commute 2 hours
You
a day.
have a lot of driving to have
2 hours a day I commute to and from work out of service. No satellite radio. No audiobooks. No nothing. Just me alone with my thoughts.
That sounds awful.
Dodging deer.
Yeah, right.
And listen, I'll come up with some paint alternatives. But guys, thank you so much. I love you, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and if you don't,
Use it to make paint.
milk paint.
Like a Renaissance painter.
Bye.
Bye.